Hey there, everybody. It's Cameron Morsey coming to you again live with another Q&A session on leadership and management. I wanted to give a big shout out to my first-time visitors out there. This is just a session that I do a couple of times a week through the course of the workday, so that leaders and managers who are coming across questions or struggles that they're having in their day-to-day leadership, they can ask those and I can try to throw in my 2 cents. But what I also love is when everybody throws in their advice and their thoughts on the matter. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but together I think we all do. So again, really welcome first timers. And for those of you tuning in, if there's somebody out there that you think could really benefit from this, go ahead and share it up to your Facebook audience and to those people that you think could get some value out of this. And we'll just make this a little bit even more pertinent and valuable for everybody. A couple of things as everybody starts tuning in and joining us here. Drop into the comment section. Let us know where you're from. It's always nice to know that these leadership and management struggles that we all face are universal. Any of us dealing with people are going to come across some of these issues. So Arelis, Jitesh, and Manila, good to see you here. But what I also love is your questions. So if you have any questions, anything you've been struggling with this week from leadership and management, go ahead and let us know. And Manila, I'm doing great. These are some of the best parts of my week, doing these live Q&A sessions, because it's a great chance to interact with you guys and see what you guys are dealing with out there in the regular world. So one thing I wanted to address as we get some questions popping in, one of the things I wanted to address right away was a question or an issue that came up out of the last Q&A session that I did, and that was hard work versus smart work. And it's one of those big frustrations that I have, because I post up some quotes and I post up little thoughts of my own on here as far as hard work and smart work is concerned. And the important point is that hard work and smart work are not mutually exclusive. If you want to be successful, you need to have both. You need to be working hard and you need to be working smart. So when you see somebody say, hey, you know what, you really got to knuckle down, you really got to work hard, don't say something like, yes, but I'm trying to work smart. Smart is the new form of lazy in the workplace. It does you no good unless you have hard work behind it. So it isn't one of those things where is it better to work smart or is it better to work hard? You need to work both. Both are right. And so that's the one thing that I wanted to kind of start this session off with, is just that thought process, because it was a discussion that came up after the last Q&A session, and it's the hard work doesn't do any good unless it's also smart, and the smart work doesn't do any good unless you're working hard at it. So that's my initial thought. So I see we got a few questions in here, so I'll kind of scroll up to the top. Again, for those of you tuning in, hi to the first timers. Great to see you guys here. And then drop in and give me those questions, and I'll go ahead and deal with these in the order they came in. So Jackie asked the question, best advice for for a new sales manager. Well, my advice twofold in regards, and I guess some of them are kind of go together. For salespeople, the most important advice that I have is to listen to your customers. Ask them questions. Find out about them. You aren't selling something until you know what it is that they need. So that communication is very important. Now, if you're a sales manager, if you are managing a team of salespeople, then the same message applies. Communicate with them and find out what tools that they need. What problems are they seeing out there? What is resonating with the audience? What isn't resonating with the audience? Where are there opportunities? Where is it that low-hanging fruit that other organizations are providing the customer that you aren't? But you really need to communicate as much as possible. That's going to give you the information to make better decisions down the road. It goes for all leadership positions, and especially from a sales perspective, you have to find out what's going on with the customer. That information allows you to decide what it is that you're going to do to address those needs that you bring up. So, Marion asked the question, and it's a common one that we get, and that is, how do you work with a boss that is a micromanager? Now, micromanagement is something that a lot of leaders deal with, especially young leaders, and some of them never break the habit as part of it, is that need for control. And so what you want to do is you want to address that need for control with your boss, but do it in a way that gives you the freedom to get stuff done and not have them stand over your shoulder and critique every little moment of every little thing that you do. So the first thing that I always recommend is volunteer to give them an update. So they give you a particular task to do, and then volunteer to an hour, 2 hours, tomorrow, next week. Say, hey, is it okay if I come by at 3 o'clock tomorrow and update you on the progress so you can see where we're at on that? And so you try to volunteer those updates. So that gives them the information, but it puts it on your terms so that you have more control over your time. You're not being pressured with them standing over you, and you can just be more productive in that case. The second thing that I recommend is to actually ask for more. So when you bring them that update, they'll have some feedback, most likely. Most micromanaging bosses have feedback. And are slight perfectionists oftentimes in those things. So when they give you that feedback, ask for more. Don't just look for the door as soon as they give you the critique and the next thing that you need to do. Don't just look for the door. Ask them what else they need. What you're looking for is you're looking for the next steps. So, hey, that's great. Okay, I'll go ahead and take care of this. I'm going to do this. What's your feedback on that? And so what you do is you're trying to just cut down the amount of interruptions. So if you ask for updates, you're cutting down the number of interruptions that you're going to be facing with them, hopefully by 50%. If you can get more information out of them, micromanagers are often terrible at communicating what the details and needs are of a project. If you can get that information from them, then you're also cutting that down by 50%. So all of a sudden, the interruptions that you have are cut down by 75%. So that's one of the great things to do. The other thing that you want to do is when you bring them the finished product, make sure you kind of toot your own horn just a little bit. Hey, this was great. I got this for you. We got this squared away. So talk about the accomplishments, because what that does is that gets at that trust. So part of that control that they have, and part of the reason they can't give up that control, is because they don't trust their people to do what it is that the people are hired to do. And so if you can talk about that accomplishment and talk about what you understood from it and let them know that you get it, you get what you were supposed to do and you went ahead and delivered it, when you reference those things, then that helps build that trust. So updates, more information, and then toot your own horn a little bit, Marion, and that'll help you kind of overcome that micromanaging boss a little bit. Next question is, how do you... best, most qualified employees come during busy times. Your laziest will show up late at night. Yeah. Hi from Cairo. Hesham asked the question, how to pass being a director for the first time? How to manage larger teams, including sales, admin, finance, HR for the first time? Please advise. So the principles stay the same in leadership. You just move them up levels. Okay? So you need to still have that communication with your direct reports. Okay, and one of the main parts of that is getting clear on the expectations. So you need to communicate what it is that you want, what it is that everybody is driving for, because you're going to be working through more people. All right, so you need to get those big things right that are going on. So get clear on what the expectations are, and then bring them into the discussion. Bring the heads of those particular departments into the discussion on how you're going to reach those goals. Now, that's one of the bases of handling those larger teams. But within that, you need to be having regular one-on-ones with the team. You don't have the benefit of being in the operation as much when you're at that higher level. So you rely on your team, those direct reports that you have, to give you that information so that you can continue to make decisions and you can address those issues. And again, it's a simple matter of having a one-on-one every week where you say, what are the problems that you're dealing with? What are the opportunities? How can I help? And then you review where the goals are and where you stand with those and what the process is and the plan is moving forward. So keep the communication up as much as possible. That's going to be the real key to you being successful. But set those clear expectations and work with your main direct reports, your team, to deal with those. Now, this even happens for managers where you have 4 supervisors and 50 employees underneath you. You need to work more with the supervisors and have that tight communication with the supervisors. It doesn't mean that you don't have skip level meetings with, people that are way, down below the hierarchy, but you need to just be more in tune with those direct reports, and you're relying on them more, which is why the communication is so much more important. Angela asked the question from the Philippines. Hi to everybody from the Philippines. Love seeing you guys here. How are millennials changing the leadership landscape? And I have a little bit of a different take on millennials than the standard entitled, lazy sort of stories that you see constantly still out there. I think that millennials are in a place where they expect what employees have always expected and always wanted. They just kind of stand up for it more. You know, they want engagement from their manager. They want a sense of importance. They want to be doing important work. And if you as a leader give them those opportunities, they will shine. The issue is that we are not engaging with millennials. We're not giving them the information on what the vision is for the organization, how important their role is, what's changing in the industry. We're not communicating and engaging with them, so they are disengaged. Again, we're not engaging with them, so they are disengaged. When you engage with them, you'll see the sort of creativity and the innovation that they have available to them. They will work hard. There are plenty of millennials that work hard out there, but they're engaged with what it is that they're doing. They need to have that sense of importance. So I like to say that millennials are holding leaders accountable for doing what leaders always should have done. Again, engaging with them, giving them information. We're in the information age. Your team knows everything they need to know with a Google search. So they need to know what's going on with the organization. What are you doing? What new things are coming out? What problems are you facing? That sort of thing. They want that information. They crave that information. So engage them with that. Let them know what how important they are to the organization, why their role is important. I guarantee it is. And then work with them and develop them and give them exciting work to do. There's plenty of it to go around. You just need to do it a little bit more. So I like to say that millennials are changing the leadership landscape and that they're holding leaders accountable a little bit more for doing what they should have been doing all along. A little bit of a different take than everybody else, but I like it. Arturo asked a question, tips on how to be a great restaurant assistant manager. Arturo, your team has all of the ideas and all of the information you need to move the organization and the restaurant forward. All right? So talk to your team members about what problems they see, what isn't working, what is working, where the opportunities are, and how you can assist them. They have a finger pulse because they're in the middle of it on all of the changes and all of the improvements that you need to make. All right, so have that conversation with every single one of your people and ask them what they're seeing in the operation, ask them what they'd like to see changed, and then when it makes sense, take action on it. As soon as you do that and then you go back to them with more questions, you will get even more ideas about things that need to be changed. And some of them will make sense and some of them won't for a variety of reasons. But engage with your team. They have all of the answers that you need to move the operation forward. Janet asked the question, how do you get a manager to do their job when their family is majority of the staff? Janet, sorry about that situation. It's the same as it is for everybody, and that is that you need to get clear on the expectations. So the manager is held to expectations on performance of the overall group. All right. Now, they may be in a difficult situation. You may have to have that discussion where it's difficult for them to manage their family members. But what you want to do is just get crystal clear on the expectations. And to drive that point home, don't just give them an expectation and a goal that they need to reach in the next quarter, in the next month, in the next year. Work with them on the plan and the step-by-step that you see to getting there. So you want to increase sales 20%. Let's just give a for instance. What is going to move the needle 20%? Is it going to be salespeople making 20% more sales calls? Okay, that's a metric you can track. Are we going to do more cross-sells? So we're increasing the number of items that people are buying from 5 to 6, for instance. What are those levers that you can pull? But come up with a plan. Give them the expectation and then work with them on a plan, and that's what holds them accountable to that. And that's where they can't shy away. Oh, we only increased sales by 5%. Well, what happened? Well, we didn't do this, we didn't do this. That's a failure of management. And you have those regular updates and review those, and that's where you can start moving the needle regardless of whether it is an older experienced staff, a younger staff, a staff that's made up of family members. Get clear on expectations, the plan for moving forward with it, and then constantly be talking about it and reviewing what your progress is on those things. Neil asked the question, could I ask the interviewer after finishing the interview about a feedback letter or email which includes my weaknesses and strengths points at the interview to avoid remaking the same mistakes in the interview, but how to ask without letting them feel something wrong. So I don't recommend that you ask in the interview what they thought of your interviewing prospects. That's not why you're there. You're there to get the job. You need to assume, Nihal, that you're going to get the job, and that's what you're working towards. You're not working towards learning. Yes, oftentimes you'll take interviews to get some experience and learn a little bit, but don't ask them in the interview for, a critique of your interviewing skills. That lets them know that you don't think that you did well, that you're not as interested in the job as you might have said, and that you're really interested in other jobs that you're going to be interviewing for in the future. So I think that's definitely shooting yourself in the foot. You can ask them if they come back to you with a rejection call or something like that. If there were things that you could have improved on, that's something that you could do. But what I recommend, if you want that feedback, have a family member or a friend interview you. Come up with the questions that they need to ask and have them interview you. Do a mock interview. It's a great way to get comfortable with things. It's a great way to anticipate questions that are going to come up in the interview, and they can give you that feedback. Make it as realistic as possible, but that's where you get your practice. Not in a live setting. That's not where you get that feedback. Ali asked the question, how to set strategic objectives for a manufacturing business which has already been running for 10 plus years. Strategic objectives, a little bit out of my realm of expertise, but what I can tell you is that strategic objectives are awfully difficult in this day and age, just because technology and everything is moving so fast. If you have a 5-year plan, basically I tell people they've got a wish list at this point. Now, in business, you have to build up, manufacturing capacity, that sort of thing. But really, I wouldn't focus on 5-year goals or 5-year strategic objectives. What I would focus on is the 1, 2, and 3 and maximizing those and what is realistic and what is pushing you at the same time. So 10%, sales increases are I don't want to say no big deal, but they should be, reasonably attainable. So set the objective at 15 and try to work your way back to how you would get there. Now, if you are in a longer term industry, maybe it is a 2-year or 3-year objective and you work back from there. But what you want to be doing is not necessarily coming up with a 5-year objective that you just work towards. You want to come up with something that you are reviewing and you are willing to change every single year as you move forward to be flexible with the marketplace, because everything is moving so quickly and so and just generally just so fast. I mean, when you think about, say, smartphones didn't exist 8 years ago. That completely changed the landscape of so much that goes on. And so that I worry about setting strategic objectives too far out, I guess, is my big concern, Ali. Ahmad asked a question, how do you deal with an impulsive boss? And that's not uncommon either, and a lot of it can be for very positive reasons. They're excited, they're motivated, they think they found the answer to something, and they're able to fix it or move it forward or improve it. So impulsiveness can come from a good place. What you want to ask them is you don't want to be the naysayer, the negative Nelly. You don't want to be negative to what their idea is, because again, they're probably coming at it very positively and with a lot of energy. And it might be something like, hey, that's fantastic. What do you think would be the next step in getting that going? And then that opens up then from the idea perspective and starts working into the planning perspective. And then you go, okay, well, what happens after that? And what happens after that? Okay, so we want to get to here. We got this, this, and this. So you start working them into the planning perspective on things. So don't just shoot it down right off the bat. Say, hey, that's great. What do you think would be the next step? And that transitions it into the thought process on whether it's actually realistic, because I'm sure that's part of what you're getting at is that reality. And then also you can start bringing in, if they're moving in a bunch of different directions and they never get any momentum, what you can also mention when you start going through that planning stage is whether it is better than what is going on right now, because you've started talking about the details a little bit. So transition into the details, Ahmad. That'd be my big question. Fatih, good to see you here from Tunisia. Always love the Tunisians to be on board. Armand asked the question really quick, how can I as a middle management deal with supervisor and superintendent painting me in a negative light with the director? Thanks. And what I recommend in this is you tackle it from two fronts. You tackle it with the director, and then you tackle it with the supervisors and the superintendent. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're communicating more with the director. You may not want to actually tackle the direct accusations that are being made by the others, but what you want to do is you want to give the director a little bit more insight into what's going on in the operation. You can give them updates on what's going on, and they can see where there's discrepancies. And then you also talk about your thought process that goes into the decisions that you're making. What that does is when you communicate more, that builds more trust and more understanding with the director. And when you know about certain things that the supervisor and superintendent are bringing up, you can actually subtly address those as well. But you want to undermine the negativity and the lies that are coming from the other people with the director. You want the director to basically say, no, that doesn't make any sense. Cameron would never do that. Or Armand would never do that. You want them to have that initial questioning in regards to negativity that's brought to you because they understand you and they understand the thought process. The other thing is if you have specifics that were brought up, you can go ahead and bring those to the supervisor and the superintendent and let them know that they're going to be held accountable, at least in them knowing that you are aware of it and you are bringing it to their attention and they're having that uncomfortable conversation with you. So you can bring it to their attention. Hey, I understood you brought this to the director's attention. I'm curious why you phrased it this way because I did not see it remotely as negative as you painted it. Is there something I was missing in that? And again, it can be a very casual conversation, non-accusatory, just letting them know that you're aware and letting them know that they're going to have that conversation with you if they are spreading lies and negativity is something that can really diminish that going forward. So make sure you're communicating with your director so that they understand you and your thought process and how you lead better, and then address it directly with your team member as well, and that can be very beneficial to you. Next question is, Ken Starr asks, what's the best way to address, so we've been doing it wrong for 30 years? No, things have just changed, Ken. That's all it is. It isn't that anything was wrong, it's that things are in a constant state of improvement. If you are doing things the same way you were doing 30 years ago, then you are really at risk of being run out of business. So things constantly need to be improved, and that's what you need to drill into your staff. It isn't that there's these sacred cows, is the term that's often used, for systems that are in place that nobody can talk about and nobody wants to discuss or change. You can talk about those things. Those things need to be changed. What we did last year needs to be changed. What we did last week needs to be changed. If there's a viable reason to make the change, then why wouldn't we want to improve it? Again, it's a constant flow sort of thing. So there isn't anything that's going to be set in stone for the next 50, 100 years in any business. It's just that things change and things improve. And I'd focus on the improvement aspect of things. Not necessarily that you've been doing it wrong for 30 years. It might have been right 30 years ago. It might have been right last week. But something changed, or we're made aware of a way to make it better. And so we're going to make it better. It's as simple as that. Thomas asked the question, how can an easygoing person, very relaxed person, how can be an easy person, relaxed person? I'll tackle this way, Thomas. I'm not exactly clear on what the question is. One of the things that you want to do to bring a little bit more clarity and relaxation is, first of all, acknowledge that with experience and wisdom certainly comes that sort of relaxed outfit where you've kind of seen it all before, so you know how things are going to play out. Realize also that being relaxed and not being in some sort of stressed crisis state is where you're going to do your best work. But what I usually recommend for people is, if you want to find a little bit more sense of relaxation in the workplace, is try to come up with a schedule as much as possible. Come up with that list of things that you want to do and then plug them into your calendar so that you have an understanding of what's happening throughout the day, what you're looking to accomplish. Set it reasonably. Make sure you have lots of buffer time for those emergencies to come up. But simply taking a little bit more control over your day and what you accomplish in the day can have a huge effect on your demeanor in the workplace. So get clear on what your priorities are. Schedule those priorities into your calendar so nobody else blocks them up. Create that buffer time. But that's my big advice as far as getting a little bit more relaxed in the workplace. Josh asked the question, I'm very proactive in thinking and planning ahead, and my future and goals are hard to reach when we have outgrown the facility we are in. My question is, how do you get upper management to understand that we need to grow in size to grow the business? Always a difficult situation to deal with, and one thing that I always have taken in my own thought process is it's not me writing the $5 million check to create a new facility. So I understand the concern in regards to doing that. What you have to do, Josh, is you have to get absolutely as concrete as possible as to what's going to happen if they build this facility. The reason they don't want to is because of risk. All right? You spend a huge amount of money building out a facility, building out the business, but the risk is you're not going to have the business to support it. So you need to try to see into the future, create those reports, that analysis that shows that if this, then this. And we've proven that this happens every time we do this. So you need to get as concrete as possible on those sorts of things, because when there's that sort of outgoing investment, it is a risk. You want to make sure that the ROI, the return on investment on that, is absolutely firm. And that's how you go forward with it. You also need to get very in tune with the finance people, the CFO if you can, and address what their concerns are. They're the ones that hold the purse strings on those sorts of things. When you're in meetings, they're the one that everybody looks to as to whether they can spend this money and grow the business and grow the facility that way. But you need to take those ideas you have, that thinking and that strategy that you have, and you need to make it concrete results. And like I said, working with the finance team and the CFO will really help you identify what it is that their issues are and what hurdles they see and what the answers, what questions they have that you need to answer on that. But that's how I'd move forward with that, Josh. Ayana asked the question, I've been in my job for 20 plus years and have had pretty much the same job type the entire time, which consists of motivating large groups of people. How do you keep things fresh and exciting for both you and the people that you lead? And Ayana, what I do is I actually try to get outside of myself. You've been in that job for 20 plus years. The role is the same, but the people that you talk to are completely different. They are different individuals. They are probably doing a different job description than they've been doing in the past. So what you do is you make sure it's as real as possible. And that means getting out and talking to the people beforehand. So if you want to, be motivating a particular department, talk to the people that are in the department. Find out what's going on. What successes are they having? What problems are they having? What's their feeling on the job? That sort of thing. But get in tune with the people, and that keeps it fresh because that constantly changes. So even though the job doesn't, the people in the job and their struggles do. So that's how I'd tackle that. Hassan asked the question, I have an issue. My team started to raise their voice on their supervisor and reply back for each issue and hate 24/7 day schedule. I think what you want to do, Hassan, is if they're not liking the 24/7 schedule, first of all, I'd question whether that was in place the entire time. And in that case, you might just be bringing on individuals who aren't into a 24/7 schedule. I spent a decade plus in hospitality, and that's a very 24/7 sort of industry. And some people wash out of it, and some people don't. Some people thrive on that sort of thing. Eventually, I chose to leave because I didn't want that 24/7 lifestyle. So if nothing's changed, I'd look at the way that you're hiring people and how you're bringing them in. Now, the other thing is if they are addressing a supervisor in a non-respectful way, then you need to go to those people and, first, I would actually go to the supervisor and see if they know what's going on with that, how their interaction is. It may be that what you're seeing is a reflection of what the supervisor and how the supervisor is interacting with the team. Oftentimes that's the case. The team doesn't raise their voice until the supervisor raises their voice. So I'd make sure that you have that conversation, get some background on that, and then I'd bring a few of the people in and ask them what's going on, that you've noticed that they've been raising their voice, they've been disrespectful to this particular supervisor, and that's not something that was happening before, and that's not something you expect or want to see happen. So what's going on in that particular area? That's how I'd handle that. So have that discussion with the supervisor, and then start having that discussion with the team members. And from that, you'll get the information to make some changes. Maybe they don't like the 24/7 schedule, but they can work with it if they, have one day it's 24/6, or if they have certain times that are blocked out, and there's ways for you to be flexible and make that work for everybody. There might be some ways to do that, but have those discussions. That's the first step. Eric asked the question, what is the best way to regain confidence in my career after being in management, then being laid off after 1 year? A new job is just a rep position. And Erica, one thing that we are terrible at in leadership and really just in people is overlooking all of our successes. There were a ton of great things that you did in your management career. All right. Now, bad things happen, situations happen that cause us to start over. But reflect and make sure that you're not just paying attention to where your failures were, but where your successes were. And that can create a huge amount of foundation for you to kind of regain that confidence. Also, you're going to have to start over at certain points. You're going to be in a new environment at certain points in your career. And you'd be surprised at the opportunities that get created. I've done it before where I've moved from a director position to a senior manager position. I've moved from a manager position to a rep position at certain points. And it's all about gaining that extra experience and seeing the way forward. Don't focus on the failures, focus on the successes that you had, and then look for the opportunities. And that's going to be really helpful as far as regaining that sort of confidence that you have. You did a ton of great things in management, and you will continue to do great things in management because you will get another opportunity if you focus on those things. All right? Good luck with that, Erica. Maria asked the question, how do you politely tell staff they need to raise the bar in how they serve? Maria, you tell them what it is that you expect. You don't say that you want them to raise the bar in how they serve. You get clear on what it means to raise the bar. Does that mean that every guest gets greeted, within 10 seconds of walking in the building? Does that mean that there are follow-up calls made after somebody buys something? What is it exactly that you're looking for in raising the bar? So get clear on that. Get clear on those and make those expectations of your team. That's one of the keys is communicating. You've got the right You've got the right idea. You need to politely tell the staff to raise the bar, but get clear on what it means to raise the bar. And then the last step is to tell them how to actually do it. Work a plan for them to do so. So we need people to be greeted when they enter the store or the restaurant, within 10 seconds. So we're going to make sure that there is a hostess or there is somebody there at the register who is doing some other work that can greet that person. So it might be that we had people doing multiple things. Well, we'll get somebody, we'll change the duties around to make that happen. I need you to make follow-up phone calls to people who have bought things. So what we're going to do is we're going to set aside 15 minutes in your day to make those phone calls because those are a priority. Just spitballing ideas here and scenarios, but get clear on the expectations, specifically what those are, and then work the plan with them on how to get there. And then you get buy-in for those. So it's not just raising the bar. Here's what we want to do, and here's how we're going to do it. And it's just a simple matter of going ABC for the team members. That makes it most easy for them and for you. Next question is from Tej, and that's, is emotional engagement the way forward to get peak performance? And how would you do it? And yes, I'll say that it is the way forward, because what emotional engagement gets at is passion. Passion is where you're going to get the best effort from your team members. So getting to them on an emotional level and a passionate level is important. So what you want to do on that is you want to first of all find out what motivates your team, Tej. So find out what it is that, do they like working in team environments? Do they like working solo on solo projects? Is it getting tasked with challenging work? Is it the overall work that the company or organization does that motivates them? Is it an intrinsic need to do better? Those sorts of things. So talk with your employees and find out what it is that motivates them. But what you definitely want to do if you want to tap into that emotion is you want to make sure that they know that their role is important to the organization. Nobody is employed in any of these organizations just for charity purposes. They are employed there to do a specific job. And the reason that that specific job needs to be done is if it wasn't done, the organization couldn't run at peak efficiency. I use the example all the time of what happens if the accounting department all left one day and nobody picked up and did their job. Well, nothing would get paid. You wouldn't receive any money coming in because it wouldn't be processed through the bank. None of the invoices would get filed. All of those sorts of things. That's an essential role. So get clear on what the essential part of your team's work is, and make sure you're conveying to them that sense of importance, that what they do is important. Then talk about what the organization as a whole does and how that's important to society in general. Again, I worked in hospitality. I'm in Vegas. All right. People need a break. People need a vacation. People need to recharge. What better place to recharge than Las Vegas? You know, if I want to be grandiose about it, I say we make the world, you know, a better place and more efficient and more productive because people are able to forget about their problems for a weekend, come back to it fresh. That sort of recharge and that refresh is important. And so get clear on that sense of importance, but talk to your people about what it is that's important to them from a motivation standpoint, and then address it if you can. You'll find a lot of things that you're able to address in those conversations, and that'll start getting into that emotional one-on-one stuff that is so important in an employer-employee relationship. I know I didn't get to everything on here. I'm kind of running out of time here. So I do pop down into the comment section. So I'll answer the questions that I didn't get a chance to get to today. I do have another live Q&A tomorrow, so you're welcome to tune in there. And until then, take it easy. Bye-bye.